You Booked It, episode 180. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me today on You Booked It, the #1 podcast where you learn how to create a successful entertainment career. Over the past few months, I have been working in the background putting together a little something that is pretty cool, and it is finally ready to share with you. I am excited to announce the You Booked It community. It is your go-to career resource and the only platform worldwide that covers the entire entertainment industry. From unlimited masterclasses to building industry relationships to chatting with Tony winners, Emmy nominees, and past podcast guests, the community has everything you need to navigate a successful entertainment career. Check it out for yourself. Head over to youbookeditpodcast.com/community or tap the link in the description of this episode, and we'll see you inside. And now, let's meet today's guest. Okay, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Erin Cornell. Are you ready for this, Erin?
I'm so ready for this.
Brilliant. Erin is an international leading lady of musicals, a songwriter, vocal coach, mindful mentor, and Rahani celestial healer. She played leading roles such as Grisabella in the Asia tour of Cats, then stepping in to cover pop star Delta Goodrum in the role in Australia. She's played Mona in A Class Act in the London cast. She's also played Elphaba in Wicked in Japan. She's appeared on the TV show The Voice Australia, getting into Team Delta, and most recently joined the world tour of the Queen Symphonic Arena Spectacular. Alongside performing, Erin helps young performers sustain a positive mindset within the industry through her coaching and mentoring. Erin, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, fill in the gaps, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry?
Yeah, thank you so much. That's a beautiful intro. Thank you so much for your structured words
Of
regarding my
course.
career. You've wrapped it all up into one little bow, really. I obviously started off just as a performer, and then from there have moved into a little bit of coaching along the way, and now find a deep passion regarding the coaching as well as the performing. They're both really important to me to help young performers unleash themselves of any negative mindset setbacks. I know I've many and still do. I'm not perfect, but I love to share whatever I've learned with anyone that's willing to listen, to help their experience within the industry to be a little bit gentler, a little bit more of flow, and to sustain that confidence and that unfailing self-worth.
Yeah, absolutely. The mindset game of this industry is so huge, so important. I'm so glad that you have acknowledged that and are really addressing it and helping people out there.
Yeah, it's crucial. It really is vital to, and as we go on, I'm sure I'll vomit out a few stories of how I got some roles, etc. But it really was when my mindset had shifted. That's when the work started flooding through, or where my mind was in that specific moment when my work started, flooding through. Yeah, it's all about the mindset. And I think it's also really important to go back to that inner child, why you started in the first place. That's what I always talk to my senior students about, going back to that moment. Or if I teach my masterclasses, I always talk about going back to that moment of when you saw that first show, or when you first heard that first song, or when you saw some kind of idol performer and you had an emotional reaction to it. That's really important to tap back into that space and to find that playfulness. And again, we've got to go back to our play. That's basically, I think, one of the lessons to learn.
Yeah, totally agree with you. I'm excited to get into a lot of that through the interview. And with that, let's dig into this first section here. And Erin, of course, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
Yeah, I think when I was at VCA, the Victorian College of the Arts, back when I was about 18, 19 years old, and I was doing my music theatre course. One of my main mentors, Tim Smith, who I call God, um, he, he helped me find my belt, and I've been employed for it pretty much ever since. So we love Tim Smith. But he said to me, he said to the class once, have unfailing self-worth, unfailing self-worth. And that one, I mean, there's so many good quotes out there. I could literally ripple off so many at you, but that one has always been written in my diary. And yes, I still write in diaries. I'm that person. I don't have a computer diary. I have a hard book diary, but that's still at the front of it. Have unfailing self-worth, because we've all been given gifts, and we're at service, I think, to the universe and to the world to share them. So that's what always reminds me of to do that quote, unfailing self-worth.
Oh, yeah. So good. And can you maybe dig into how that has worked its way into your career?
Yeah, it's, again, I feel like it's been such a journey of continuing to refine and I want to say free myself from some negative headspace setbacks. But yeah, okay. So my first career moment out of VCA, out of college, was I saw Universal Studios Japan were advertising to audition for an abridged version of Wicked in Osaka. And I think I hadn't even turned 20 yet, but I was still at VCA, and I saw the audition and I thought, that I can do. I was given Defying Gravity when I was at VCA in a project called Scenes and Songs. And I remember I had no reaction to it oh my gosh, it's from Wicked. I didn't even know the musical at the time. And I was given this song, and I just so innocently was like, I could sing that. And I remember going in for the first day when we had rehearsals for it with the director, Dean Bryant, who's quite a respected director in Australia. He came in as a guest director and gave me the song. And I think he didn't even, I remember singing it the first time at college, and I remember him being like, he looked up and he went, oh, I actually didn't think, he said, that was really good. And I didn't think you'd be able to do it. I was like, oh, but I was like, well, that's a fun song. And I love witches and magic and stuff. I was like, oh, not really knowing much about it. And I'm like, I can definitely sing those notes. So I just did it out of a place of joy and play and fun. And then obviously after that, got obsessed with the show and watched the Tony performance a billion times, et cetera, et cetera. But so that was seeing this audition for Universal was an extension of that play. And I just, again, innocently was like, oh, I can do that. And then I remember the audition was really early. It was 9 a.m. and aggressively warmed up my voice. Sorry, neighbours, about 6:30 or whatever, very early. And then off I went. And I remember just being there going, just the entire time going, yeah, I can totally do this. And then I remember they were like, do you know Wizard and I? And inside I was like, yes. But I was like, yeah, I know it. I think I know it. And then I just remember them filming it. And I remember having goosebumps all up and down my legs, and this exhilaration of just it was an excuse to share this joy and of this song and this play and this character that I loved so dearly. And then, this is a crazy story, but how I found out I actually got the role was at the same time I was doing Erin Cornell does Schwartz. Yes, I just said my name as a third person. It's a bit weird, but I was doing an Erin Cornell does Schwartz show. And I was researching Stephen Schwartz fact files very late at night to put into this show of my band. I just graduated from BCA. It was my second one-woman show out. And I found his email address 2 a.m. in the morning. I was like, surely it's not his email address. But I emailed him anyway. I thought, and I didn't even talk about the audition. I actually just said to him, I actually just wrote and said, look, I've had the researching, and I'm currently about to perform your show, and I just want to thank you so much for writing music that's so easy for a performer to perform, because the music and the lyrics just do the work for you, and then your voice almost falls out because it's an extension of where the story's going, blah 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 blah. And then I was just a bit of a gratitude rave at him, and he the next morning on my compact computer he had written back, and in the inbox it said Stephen Schwartz. So I was like, Anyway, so I opened it, obviously, and it said, "Dear Erin, thank you so much for your beautiful email. I believe I've had the pleasure of watching you perform via DVD. If I have it my way, you will be finding yourself in Osaka very soon playing Elphaba. And so he actually
Wow.
told me I got the role before I actually, I then had to wait a month. And then I was kind of like, oh my God, I got it. Stephen told me. But then maybe you never know, and you never know what changes. And so it's this crazy random email from Stephen Schwartz telling me I got my first job out of college.
That's
There you go.
amazing. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. So there you go.
Great. And let's get into this next section here. And Erin, of course, you are an entertainer. I'm an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, and personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry like you're having now takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yeah, there is an outrageous amount of fun and excitement being an entertainer, doing what we do, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
My gosh, there's literally so many.
Yeah.
I just feel like for every performer to be like, there was one. I'm like, you're lying. Um,
Yeah, right.
okay. I guess one of my biggest moments was again straight out of college before I went and did Wicked. And I was asked to go in for the Liza Minnelli cover for the Hugh Jackman Arena version of Boy from Oz in Australia.
Mm.
And I knew I'm a strong mover. I wouldn't call myself an advanced dancer by any means. That little kid gets very excited when I can say I did the opening of Cats every day.
Yeah.
I was literally, I'm dancing in Cats. Anyway, yeah, that's not my jam. But for Eliza, I wanted to show the creatives, even though I'm not trained strongly in that way, that I could physically transform myself into a dancer if I did the work. So I choreographed for that audition my up-tempo number very lightly. I'm not talking like full out. But I went to I had some private dance classes with a choreographer. And I just said to her, is there some ways we could subtly show in shapes, movement within this song, which was Other Side the Tracks from Little Me, some Fosse Liza-ness, so they can be like, look at her when she's got a finished product. She can look like this. I basically went in and did that, and I got a standing ovation from the panel, and I was like, oh, this is going so well. I also conveniently, no, not well, I thought it was conveniently, but it wasn't. So I learned, because Boy from Oz had gone to Broadway, so it already had done the show in Australia with Tom McKenney, but then it went to Broadway and Hugh Jackman played it. And Liza's song changed. It was a different song from the Australian production to the American production. But I thought, I might be clever and learn both songs, because you never know, because now they're doing it back in Australia, so they might want to go back to the first one or la la la. So I learned both songs that Liza did in the two different productions. And then in my audition, after standing ovation, up-tempo number, and I was like, oh, this is going really well. They then said to me, do you know Maybe This Time from Cabaret? And I didn't, which is so funny, because I've literally sung it. I think I've literally done it as I was like, I have to learn this song. Obviously, it's one of the most cliche songs in music theatre. Very well aware of that. I knew how it went. I did not know one lyric. Now, being 20 years old, 19 years old, whatever I was, super confident, I just went, I know of it. And then I stood there and committed to the whole thing with making up words. And then, tell me how to get. It was interesting. Anyway, but while doing that, afterwards, I could see their faces drop and their excitement of, oh my God, we found our girl, to, oh, definitely that vibration came into the room. And I still did a dance call, etc., and they got me back from some scenes, but you could definitely see there there was something that they were a bit disappointed with, or I guess I'm making an assumption, but that was what I gauged from the room after that moment. And then basically one of the casting directors of it, the casting director of it, called my agent and said, look, when that happened, it showed her lack of research, it showed her lack of experience. And I remember getting that call from my agent telling me that. And because it was so fresh and the start of my career, I literally thought my career was over. I was like,
Yeah.
she's never, because she was a very powerful casting director at that point. And I was like, oh my God, she's never going to see me again. And she was like, she's too much of a cabaret performer. And I had bright red hair at the time. She was like, her looks just really full on. It was bright red, spiky hair. Yes, it was full on. But it was me at that point. But yeah, I remember that being a real, ooh. And then I had to build myself up a little bit again, because when I was at the Victorian College of the Arts, there was very high expectation that I would come out and be a leading lady straight away. That's pretty much how I was treated, which was very kind and lovely that I had that energy around me. But then when it started not happening as immediate as I assumed it would, it was a pretty kind of tragic fall, because not only do you feel like you're letting yourself down, but you feel like you're letting these other people down that believe so heavily in you as well. So getting Alphabet was a real great moment, because it was back to that sense of play and joy. But then, yeah, I guess that moment, that audition, ingrained in me for a bit when it came to Australia and my success in Australia, because I had this kind of story I kept telling myself that they don't take me seriously, or I'm not seen, or stuff. And I guess that is a continuous battle. I think it's a tricky one, because I've had an extremely successful international life and career. I really have. And I'm very blessed because I've had so much travel. And when you think about COVID times and the lack of travel we can do now, I always say to a lot of my friends that have done a lot of travel with me, God, we were lucky, because we've got to travel. Like, whether the world ends tomorrow, which it won't, we're going into a new chapter. And I feel like 2021 is a very optimistic year, and it's going to be a lot kinder and gentler, I'm hoping. But just reminding myself, very grateful for the travel I've done. But yeah, that underlying story about Australia, though, has been a challenge. And that's where I've had to change my mindset a lot in my adulthood of, I'm not seen, I'm not heard in Australia, I'm not appreciated in Australia. And I do believe it started from that little moment, that little audition. Well, it wasn't a little audition, it was quite a big audition. And then just really reframing that conversation with yourself, retraining your brain to different words can be incredibly powerful. And when you do get out of your way, that it floods through.
I think that's all fantastic. You said reframing the way you look at everything. And I think that's such a huge takeaway, because you're right. Us as entertainers, we're never going to have just one upset or one challenge. Our careers are full of them. It's a tough question, right, to sum it up into one thing. But the biggest takeaway is the ability to reframe situations and past experiences can really make all the difference.
100%. And also, out of that can come, from what you think is a negative cloud, can come beautiful gifts of experience of traveling and other gigs coming from other places, and extraordinary gigs. I always say with my career, there's been a lot of lulls, but when it's a yes, it is so full-heartedly yes. And it's such an extreme career moment. Like, I went from doing the hard classic unemployed actress vibe in London, didn't have a lot of money, to then Grisabella. It's always been, and I used that in my audition. I used my tragicness at the time in that audition, and I sang from my soul, and I sang from my sadness. I sang from I'd just come home from I'd been in the UK for 3 years, and I'd done a class act as Mona. That was an incredible experience, still one of my most joyful roles I've ever played, and amazing cast. And Linda Klein, who co-wrote it, she came over and saw it, and it was just a wonderful experience. And also, I did a tour, a Queen tour, singing with, West End Stars Sing Queen, it was called, and had some great moments. But then there was this kind of epic lull, and I hadn't been home to Australia in 3 years. I came home to Australia. I saw sunshine, I saw friends, I saw family. and then returned to the UK and was like, what am I doing here? It's freezing. It's dark at 3 p.m. And I was like, ah. And then in that period, I was actually given a book. Someone told me to read this book called How to Be Brilliant in 90 Days. And I read it and on my like 80 whatever day, 85th or something, I went in for Grizz and I got it. But I really used my pining for home, my pining for sunshine, my pining for just an easier life and that memory, no pun intended, but literally that memory. And that's where I sang from. And so it's all relevant. It all connects. It's all perfect in a weird way.
Yeah, totally. Well, let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living, or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think when I was 10, 1996, I saw a production of Sunset Boulevard and Hugh Jackman was actually in it, and Deborah Byrne. And Deborah Byrne has been a mentor slash massive inspiration for me for the majority of my life, really, since I was 10. But I saw that production and I saw her, and it doesn't really make that much sense that a suicidal recluse that lives with a monkey is a massive attraction to a 10-year-old, but apparently it was to me. But I saw truth, I saw vulnerability, I heard truth and vulnerability in a voice, and like the magicalness of it, and that kind of, that Sunset Boulevard house, her house and Sunset, and the sets and the sound and the documentary was on TV. And right at that point as well, musicals were taken really, not that they're not anymore, but on a media side, I feel like they've lost a bit of momentum these days. Like then there was, it was on Channel 10, which is a really popular TV channel in Australia. There was the documentary of how they got up Sunset Boulevard and the renovation of the Regent Theatre to open up the show. And that's on, that wouldn't happen now, really, for a musical on, and there was articles in the paper every day, and it was a really massive time. And I just remember seeing her, Deborah Byrne, as Norma, and just went, I have to do that. Whatever that is, I have to do that. And then progressively dressed up as Norma Desmond most weekends and sang with one look as a child. But that the actual seriousness of it, and the realness of it, and what it made me feel was very real and very powerful. And I always, if I lose my way a bit, I get emotional even thinking about it now, but if I lose my way a bit and if I get a bit jaded about the industry, I go back and put that overture on, that Sunset Boulevard overture, because it's really beautiful. I think it's some of Andrew's best music ever. So that's my point of view, but it's so magic. And that's definitely was one of those points. And that's not as an adult, that's as a kid going, this is it. And there was a drive that pretty much hasn't left. Along the way, that drive's been a bit bruised and or it's had a great ego moment or whatever. But really underneath, that's still there. But I think that's one there. And then I think when you audition for a role and you really know, I remember with Grisabella, I was like, no, I can do this. I think when your whole body reacts so strongly to something, I think Grizz was definitely a moment. Alpha was, because there are moments when your body just goes, yep. There's other auditions you go along the way and you go, yeah, give that a go, come from away or something. And like great storyline, etc. But then there's other roles that you're just like, whew,
yeah,
your whole body reacts and you listen to that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's piggyback on that real quick and talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. What was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
Booked it, cute. It would be Grizz because of how all the signs I got that were telling me that day that I got it. That's how I believe it. But that day it all came through so quickly. And I find that happens with the majority of the big booked it moments that I have, they've all happened pretty quick. They haven't been, besides actually the longest wait I've ever had was to be the Grisabella standby for Delta Goodrem. That was a very painful long wait, which was a weird thing because I was already playing the role, and then they didn't know whether they wanted to cover for Australia. So anyway, we'll talk about that later. But that was the most painful out of them because it was a long process. So basically how this went was the day before, someone that I was doing a class act with, beautiful Johnny Barr, he had a text message from the music director of Cats saying, look, we're kind of screwed. We haven't found our Grizz yet. We've auditioned Australia, South Africa, and a few in London. Is there anyone that you could recommend to come in? And I think Johnny texted 2 names and numbers, one of them being mine. And then they found my representation with Global Artists in the UK and contacted them. And basically my agent said, they want you in you've been requested to come in for Grizabella tomorrow.
Wow.
So I was like, okay. And actually kindly, very grateful to think about it now, I messaged beautiful Deborah Byrne, who I'd reconnected with in my later years, not later years, I was still in my 20s, but in the later part, I wasn't contacting her since I was 10, but we had, once I'd become a professional performer after VCA, and we'd done a few concerts together, fundraising concerts, etc. together. And I emailed her and I said, look, I'm going in for Grizz tomorrow. And I knew that she had played Grizabella. And I said, do you have any wise words for me for tomorrow? And she sent me the most heartfelt rundown of what Grizabella was to her and what the points of her soul, that Grisabella's soul, that really stood out for her, etc. And I read that and I practiced the songs over at Remark the Cat and Memory over and over again. And even the next day for the audition, usually for an audition, I'd be like, okay, the whole day's off, like, blah, blah, blah. That I couldn't afford to do that. I taught 2 singing students before I left the house. I was sitting there in my audition outfit. And I was on my way after the audition to go look after a friend's cat called Winston, a Persian cat in Hyde Park in this incredible penthouse. But yeah, so he was away for business and I was going to go look after this cat. So I had my little suitcase. And as I was leaving Putney, in my Putney home, it was really cold, to go to Marylebone. And I left feeling like, with my suitcase, I pretended I was returning to my tribe. I was like on my way to, like, where the audition was, to my tribe. Like, I'm returning to the Cats, which is that's what Grizabella does. She returns to her tribe, her original tribe. Yeah. So I did that, got there, sang. Then they said, oh, we love, have you got anything else? And I had my little folder there and had songs that I thought they would think would be appropriate for a Grizz. And they were like, and the music director, Fizz, he's like, no, he said, I love this song, Moving the Line from Smash. And I thought, what? This is not Grizabella, but okay. Anyway, and so I whacked that out. And I didn't, even with the song, even with the end, because I didn't think, I had all these other songs perfectly in the folder. And then Moving the Line was right at the end of the folder, smashed into one kind of slip. And when we got to some part of the song, the page wasn't even there because it was all, I was like, they're never going to choose Moving the Line. So I whacked that at the back. And then there was a part of the song and I said, sorry, I think we need to stop. I think that's the page. That was all clumsy, that part. But and then we did it again. It was fine. And then I sang Memory. Oh my goodness. Did they get me to do Touch Me a billion times? Yes. And then they filmed it. And then I walked out and I remember I accidentally left my phone in the room and had to knock on the door and be like, sorry, I left the phone in my room. And then came back in. And as I did that, they said, I'm so glad you walked back in because you were singing Touch Me. And they said, it sounds a bit Italian, Touch Me. And they were like, can you just do it again and touch me? Touch me, it's so easy to. And I went, oh, of course, did it. And they said, oh, great, thank you so much. But even though that sounds all a bit like a slapstick comedy, when I sang Memory, I went somewhere. I really did go somewhere because I was pining, as I said before, pining for home, pining for sunshine. And I really connected to my deep sorrow and hope for tomorrow. Yes, so then when I house sat the cat, and then after house sitting the cat, the next day I went to a cafe. Friends were coming back from Germany. They were doing Starlight Express and we were having a little welcome back. And as we were sitting there, this cat kept circulating the table of the cafe. And my other friend, Anna O'Byrne, who played Christine in Love Never Dies, she was like, it's a sign. She was sitting there as well. And she was like, and it's a sign that I've worked with Andrew and Dean's just come back from doing Starlight Express. She said, it's all signs. And then as I was walking home to go look after the cat again after that lunch, I walked past a restaurant that said Korean barbecue, and the tour was to be in Korea. And then the next day, as I was teaching again, I got offered the role, and my singing student recorded the whole thing because she was recording the singing lesson and then sent me that, and I still have that, which is very cute.
Wow.
So it's, yeah, that was probably the audition where it's like the narrative from the first moment was the universe going, yeah, we're with you on this. Like, we're collaborating with you. If you do what you need to do, here are the signs, and pretty sure you'll get it.
Yeah, so good. So good. Love that. Thank you. And let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And it's a weird time, right? With COVID and everything going on. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I think particularly being in Melbourne, Australia, we had a pretty intense lockdown for about 6 months, 8 months. It was pretty hectic, and it was stage 4. That my world had to deeply stop. I'm very grateful that my singing students all went to Zoom, and now that's actually the only way I teach now, on Zoom, and because it's opened up my teaching internationally, which has been incredible. I've got singing students in Singapore and Hong Kong and the UK and Sydney, and that's in Melbourne. But that's been really, really magical. So that's been a gift out of it. But I guess performing wise, yeah, I had to really question, because performing is so, I believe performing is very personal and it's very vulnerable. And when that stops, I was booked about at least 9 Queen gigs, like singing Queen, over the year, that obviously all had to be stopped. But with that came a big break, which I think we're not used to. We're used to a hustle. We're used to creating momentum and creating, like, always that flow and achieving some kind of project on the go. And that's who we are, like, to an extent, or who I am to an extent. And that for a while, it was actually really nice to give myself a little vacay. And then, it was a mental health ride for sure, because you were then feeling good. And then the next minute you go, oh my God, like a song comes on, you start singing to it. And then all of a sudden I had all these tears running down my face going, that's right, you were given that gift. And that's not being, when we sing, it's very high frequency on an energetic form. So when you stop doing that, and when that's a gift that you've been given, it can lower your vibration quite intensely. And I, then had a massive sing one night. I remember, of all these kind of huge songs, and just cried, just was purging, seeing my career flash before my eyes. It was very dramatic, but it felt really real at the time. And I'm sure there was a glass of wine involved, but it was like a very kind of real moment of, whew. And also maybe not saying that chapter will never open again. Actually, yeah, that chapter, it felt like that chapter was closed, not meaning that there's going to be not going to be new chapters opening performing, but that it felt like I was mourning, which we have been, I think. And I think it's okay to say that. And then from that came, interestingly enough, I'm now living in the Dandenong Ranges in the forest. I made a choice to move out to more nature when COVID happened, in this beautiful kind of Hansel and Gretel amazing magical house. And I was looking out the window to this incredible tree, and this melody just hit me. And I was like, I don't write music. That's so silly. Shush. And then it kept kept hitting me. And I recorded it. And I was like, okay, I voice memoed it. And then before I judged it, I sent it to 2 of my backing singers and my guitarist, Erin, that usually does my one-woman shows that's of other people's music, not mine. And I said to them, look, I can't get this out of my head. And then they were like, this is really good. And then they built on it. And then from that birthed our band called Moon Over Soho. And we've been songwriting since the start of COVID. And that has been an incredible, wonderful, new, fresh, liberating, freeing experience. Because when I was at BCA, and it wasn't done out of word of unkindness, but one of the mentors said to me once, and he was a super fan, like not a super fan, but he was a fan of my work. And he just said once in a songwriting class, Erin, he said, "You're good at so many things, but songwriting isn't one of them." He didn't say in like a brute. And I went, "Oh," literally, because I looked up to him so much. I didn't even take offense to it. I just went, "Oh, okay." And my brain from that moment went, "I'm not a songwriter."
Right.
And that's why when this melody was coming through, I was like, "No, this can't be." But I kept going, "No, it is good. It's really powerful. It's really beautiful." And the music is almost collaborating to my spirituality, my healing. I do Rahani celestial healing. It's almost like a exiting from my body and soul out like to this sound, which is this music is more, I guess, a mixture of kind of Celtic Mystique, Marina McKennitt, mixed with kind of Fleetwood Mac, The Cause, Coldplay vibe. That's where we're at. And it's unleashing this kind of inner sound of mine. And that's been incredible. And then also we've just been putting up Moon Over Soho, some little videos which you can check out on my Instagram, etc., of just songs to help uplift. And we did Hold On For One More Day as our like one more day before lockdown ended for Melbourne, and just kind of, but putting our Celtic kind of folky twist on it. And then we've just done another one for Christmas. And so that's just been fun and light and lovely. And I feel like right now that's what we need as humans. With everything that's going on, we just need as much fun and light and lovely as possible. And wherever that can come from, and maybe that's not the direction you've always gone in the past, and that to me is frightening going, "Oh my God, but that's not going hard for that lead role or whatever." But that's not saying that chapter's closed. When that role comes up again, then I go, "Yeah, I'll give my heart and soul for this. I'll 100% put everything into dabbling into that again." But just right now, with what we've got and what's being given, that's what's really feeding my soul, and I couldn't be happier, really. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Love all of that. I'll have to check out all of your music coming up here for sure.
We're going to, within the start of the year, the twins, who are my backing singers, way more than backing singers now. They were in the shows, but they are my collaborators and incredible talents. But Michaela and Jolie Osfield, but they will be coming down to Melbourne, and we're going to be recording the album together with Aaron, our guitarist, and obviously building on that sound with more of a band. But the four of us are the writers, and just really excited to see what happens with that.
Very cool. And it is time to move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round.
Yes.
I am going to ask you a handful of questions.
Go. Sorry. Yeah.
I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible.
Oh,
one after
gosh,
another.
the pressure. Okay.
I know. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, first question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
Self-worth.
Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Have unfailing self-worth.
Yes. Third question. What is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre-COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
Meditation, journaling.
Fourth question. What is your best resource? Whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, maybe a podcast or piece of technology you found is helping your career right now.
For lightness and joy and play, what I was talking about, I have replaced my morning news with YouTube clips of interviews with Kate Hudson, Gwyneth Paltrow, Goldie Hawn, or Oprah, because I feel like they are where they're joy, they're talented, they're successful women, they're entrepreneurs, and they're making a difference to this world in a really light, joyful, fun way.
Beautiful. And the fifth question. If you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently, or would you keep it the same?
No, I wouldn't do anything differently. I'd probably do a little bit more. No, actually, no, I wouldn't do anything differently. I was doing quite well in 2009 with television. And then I got asked to go back because one of the alphabas in Japan had vocal nodules. So I was asked to go back to Japan to play the role for a little bit while she had her operation. And I always thought, oh gosh, if I'd stayed in Oz, I probably would have done really well with film and TV because I was on a real momentum. And because here we're getting a bit better, but America's so much better at employing music theatre performers, just employing performers on TV and in musicals. In Australia, we're getting better, but we're still they're a music theatre performer or they're a screen performer or a straight actor. So I was kind of releasing my music theatre reputation and I was really on a momentum with film and TV, but then I went back and played Alphabet, but then I would never have moved to the UK because that's when I got signed with my UK management when they came and saw me in Wicked. So, all's well that ends well.
Indeed, there you go.
Yeah.
And the last question, what is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Yeah, to be always your authentic self, to never try to be someone else, to never try to mold yourself into fitting something. Walk in with your open heart, walk in with your authenticity, walk in with your vulnerability, walk in with your sunshine and your sparkle and your light. The end. That's what's worked.
So good. And to wrap up this interview, Erin, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Yes, so I've got my website at www.erincornell.net. So that's got majority of things that I offer. Also, my Instagram is Miss Erin Cornell, which is me as all my offerings. But then if you want to look into having some private singing lessons with me, I specialize in fierce, secure belting, relaxed state, sobby hearted technique and connection to lyric. You can connect to my Instagram page called Singing with Erin. But those contact details are on my main Instagram, Ms. Erin Cornell. And then also on Ms. Erin Cornell is connecting to Rahani with Erin if you're wanting to book in a Rahani Celestial, beautiful, gorgeous healing with me. And then there's also a link to Moon Over Soho Band on my main Instagram as well. So they're all my offerings. If you'd like to have a beautiful private singing lesson with me or a mentor lesson on mindfulness, please head over to my main Instagram and you can then connect into all the other connections. And then, also the Rahani Celestial Healing.
Beautiful. And for everyone listening out there, I've put the links to everything Erin just said into the description of this episode so you can easily connect with her and everything she's got going on. And also, be sure to share this podcast with your fellow entertainers, coaches, teachers, arts and entertainment educators, and anyone you know aspiring to create a career in this industry. You Booked It is the #1 resource of expertise on how to actually create a successful entertainment career. It is integral to helping them succeed in helping you create a better, more fulfilling career in this insane, wonderful industry. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Erin, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so glad that we got connected.
Oh, thank you so much. It's just been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. It's been a lovely trip down memory lane.
Wonderful.
Gorgeous. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode and want more like it, be sure to smash that subscribe button. Also, be sure to jump inside the brand new You Booked It community. Head over to youbookeditpodcast.com/community or tap the link in the show notes right now and take your career to the next level. Inside, you'll connect with your people and develop real industry relationships, which, by the way, this podcast has discovered is the #1 fundamental that creates long-term career success. Discover opportunities and join in on over 20 upcoming live masterclasses. Tap the link in the description of this episode, and I'll see you there.